Hello, and welcome to these Galentines reading sprints, which we're absolutely doing to showcase our love of books and not because I asked friends to do reading sprints and then somebody said it was the 14th and I was like, oh yeah, Galentines. Entirely planned. I have lovely friends here with me. We shall be joined with one more. Do you want to go around and introduce yourselves, even though they probably know you by now?
Probably. So I'm Hannah, as you can see, letter M, she, her, and I'm going to be attempting to read A Dowry of Blood, but I've nearly DNF'd this like 4 times, so we might give it one sprint, and then I might do something else.
I think you should DNF it, just for the record.
I think you should DNF it. One less on your TBR.
Well, this is the thing.
I
I'll
want
get
to
into it
read it.
once like Lizzie's introduced themselves, but yeah.
Hi, I'm Lizzie, Bombadil's Bookish Things, and I have got numerous things in front of me because I'm that person. I need to catch up on this buddy read of The Night Circus that I'm reading with Tamar, and I am only 24 pages in, and I think we're supposed to be nearly at page 200. So that's going well. So I need to catch up. I'd also like to continue reading Foul Lady Fortune, which I'm really, really enjoying. I just haven't been in a reading mood. And also, I'd like to do some line cramming for the play I'm in, because I have a month and I don't know all my lines yet. So I'm like, I should probably do something about that.
Sounds like a solid rotation.
Yeah. So that's the 3 things I have in front of me.
I think we'll aim to do 3 sprints. Might be 2, depending on how much we talk. So maybe you can do like 1 per sprint.
A sprint. That's probably what I will do. And if I don't get to reading to my lines, I will do that when I go to bed. It'll be like the last thing I read, and hopefully that will help them sink in.
Nice. And I'm Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe. You're on this channel. I think I've got loads of current reads. This is me all the time. I think I'm going to start these coming, and me and Abby are supposed to be buddy reading Les Mis. I've had to put it on pause because in 2023 I've just been stressed, which means I can't plan my reading whatsoever. But it would be nice to catch up, to resume it at some point, because I was actually really loving it. So when Abby appears, hopefully that'll be more pressure to pick up Les Mis.
That's fair. That's fair. So you're enjoying it in general?
I'm really enjoying it, and I was really surprised. Hello, because of the fact that everybody talks about how long-winded it is and how he just goes on and on and on. But so far, everything he's explained in detail has been relevant. So I'm like, I read so many thick books, and I'm like, I would chop this in half. And so far, 150 pages in, I'm like, I wouldn't chop anything.
That's fair. That's fair, because I do know that obviously Les Mis sold really well, and then The Hunchback of Notre Dame came after, and he like paused writing it for like 10 years at a time with that one. So I imagine that one's probably harder to read. But I love that you and Abby have this thing where you pick a massive book every year. It does kill me though, and I will bring it up again because I love bringing it up. But when we had our Total Bollocks live show, Total Bollocks, for those watching who don't know, is a book club that Lizzie and I run with a bunch of others, where we all pick a different book for a prompt and then we talk about them. Abby recommended, for a quick read, The Count of Monte Cristo. Like, it's 1,200 pages long.
Like, I can't defend her. I get what she's saying. For a classic that's that long, it's surprisingly readable, and you can. And I think we both got through it faster than we expected. Granted, faster than we expected took well over 4 months. So
it just killed me because, like, so for the quick reads, we'd got middle grades. I had like a short story, which, by the way, you need to read, Rizio. It's so good. Middle grades, graphic novels. Like, I think someone recommended poetry in the comments. Like a whole variety of things. And then Abby, who was hosting it that month, was like, "Yeah, here's this tome that I read really quickly," and I was like, "Do you think maybe it's because you read really fast? Do you think maybe that's why it's a quick read?"
She does read. So. She does read pretty fast. You've got more Monte Cristo defense. I don't know. I think
don't let Abby say that. Her ego doesn't need it.
You should read it, Hannah, this year and test this theory.
I actually DNF'd The Count of Monte Cristo. last year. Because I know. I was doing it as an audiobook. I had a really pretty copy that I found in a charity shop, and I really wanted to read it because it's my best friend's favourite novel of all time. And he's currently rereading it, and he's like, I'm still obsessed, it's still great. And I was like, that's great. I got 600 pages in and went, this is where the story should have started. And by that point, I just got really frustrated. It's too long for me. It's too long.
No. This is surprising because you read fantasy books and I tend to not read as many fantasy books. Let us know what you choose. Yes, do let us know what you're reading or what you're working on for these sprints. Hopefully good books.
We like options too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
A Carter Witch is one I need to read. I love Nnedi Okorafor's writing. Just thinking about all the books that I could be reading, even though I'm at this point, I'm worried that I'm reading too much, but the stress is not diminished, and therefore I'm still going to be reading this much.
I think the thing is sometimes it's the thing that helps me read is having lots of things, and then sometimes I'm like, I am totally overwhelmed by the sheer choice that I've got. And that's why I am really considering DNFing A Dowry of Blood, because I made a very flippant comment to Celine a couple of days ago that was like, maybe I should just DNF at least one book a week. Now, for most normal people, that's too many books. But considering I'm usually reading between 8 or 9 books a week, DNFing one is not a bad idea. So I think it's one of those things. But I did say that I would come back to my discussion of A Dowry of Blood. I bought this because YouTube, when it was like self-published, adored this, and I couldn't get my hands on a copy because every time I went to order it, it was sold out. Then it was traditionally published with a red sprayed edge. We love to see it. It's a sapphic romance, apparently, with vampires. It's written in second person, and I am struggling because every time she's like, well, remember when you did this really horrible thing? And I'm like, I didn't. I know I didn't. And you're talking to me like, and I get what the whole point is. You're meant to put yourself in the perspective, because it's kind of like Hamnet, where they never name the person. It's just heavily implied that it is this person. And I really like that it's set in Romania and it has like a real vibe. But the last vampire book that I read that was like fully set in Romania, fully leaned into the Dracula stuff, was the one by Kira Millward Hargraves, The Deathless Girls, which was 5 stars. Adored it. This doesn't touch it. Doesn't come close.
Do you know it?
It's really short. So I'm like,
it doesn't matter how long it is.
I've got like 150 pages. So it just feels like a waste. And it's really pretty. So
Another Hannah agrees with you. This makes me sad because everything you said makes me want to read it. And I do like second person.
Mm-hmm. I really struggle with it. I really struggle with second person because I noticed that when I was reading something the other day, like I was doing this thing where I was just trying like a couple of chapters of something to see if I wanted to pick it up. And that was in second person too. And I was like, no, can't do it. So it's I mean, if you want it, Olivia, just let me know. I'll stick it in a box for you.
I wouldn't say no. I actually wouldn't say no to that one. So far this month, I've been really good. I've unhauled a book for every book that I've hauled.
Nice.
And by doing that, I did DNF a book last week. I read like 200 pages of a book and I DNF'd it. Who is she? This is not me.
That's quite impressive though, because that's commitment to trying it and then commitment to DNFing.
It was like, I know this is going to end as a 3-star. And when I looked at reviews, all the things people enjoyed about it, who gave it more than that, not had happened, but all the reasons they were giving were happening. And I still didn't care. So I was like, probably should just let it go.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's still hope that I could like this book because
people have really enjoyed it. Like everyone I've spoken to has really enjoyed it. Celine adored it, and Celine is really picky.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But what's really interesting is you saying about like trying something and then just like noping it, is I saw that Black Sunshine, which is another vampire novel, was on Audible's premium help yourself to it freebie ones, and I had that in my Amazon wish list. And because I was updating my Amazon wish list of all the things that I got for my birthday, I was like, oh, well, let's just try this one. It was awful. I was like, I'm going to give it 3 chapters. And then I was like, not for me. And then just like took it off my wish list. And now I'm just waiting to see if other books that are on my wish list come up so I can try them and remove them as well. Because it was not good.
Was it the audiobook though? Was the audiobook bad, or was the like?
No, it was the book. I actually think, based on our recent Morganville Vampire conversation, I think you'd like it. Because it reads so similar to Morganville Vampires, except I know that it's then like kidnapping and like smutty and stuff like that. But I feel like you'd really enjoy it. You're probably more the target audience than I am. I was very disappointed.
I feel like I'm just more into vampires than you are in general, though.
That's what I mean, is I used to love vampires. I used to have so many vampire books. Like, one of the first blogs that I did for my website was, like, a vampire renaissance of, like, here's all these vampire books that you should know about. And now I'm like, I just don't enjoy them anymore. And it makes me really sad.
I still love me some vampires. Actually, on the tube on the way home, the tube was delayed today. The person opposite me was watching Twilight on her phone. Mm-hmm. And it was reflected in the glass above her. So I watched Twilight in reverse on the way home. It was great.
I love that. And that thing's like, I really like vampire films, but I don't know. I seem to have gone off vampire books.
But is the craze still existing? I feel like it's definitely mellowed out, and it made a small revival, but it's not the revival people kept saying that it was.
I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like in certain social circles, like you find your people. When you find people that like vampires, they do kind of like to like cluster together, you know.
Yeah. I feel like it's ghosts now, like haunted house stories. Like
haunted houses are really popular at the moment, which I'm here for, because I love a haunted house.
Yeah, same. But like I was thinking like of a craze. I'm like, the thing that I'm seeing everywhere are haunted houses, or like ghosts, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, haunted houses and things in the walls type stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, sentient houses, yes.
Sentient houses, yeah.
Yes. I just love these kind of tropes. I'm just here for all of it.
I'm genuinely excited to see if this is the 3rd year on the trot that Gothtober has sentient house as a prompt, just to appease Elizabeth.
It probably will come up, but the best thing about it is I can't TBR Mexican Gothic for anymore because I actually read it this time around.
I'm here for a sentient house prompt. I love it.
I do like a sentient house prompt as well. Gothic, yeah. I mean, I'm here for it because this to me is so bizarre, right? Because when I started on BookTube, I was like, I really like spooky Gothic books as like a hangover from like studying it at uni. And I felt like no one was talking about Gothic books. And then like slowly but surely, I started to spot like Gothic themed videos, like occasionally on people's content, right? So it would be like yourself, Tish, like even Gavin was doing like Gothic themed things. And I was like, maybe I can find my people here. And then out of nowhere, Gothic books have become really popular. And I'm like, yes, I know this is not on me. This is not something I did. I'm just enjoying it so much.
It has been nice. It's been so nice to see. And it's kind of been nice to see not a move away from a certain fantasy type of book, but to see it have a bit more of a challenge, because I do think we had our eras. We did have a vampire era, to be fair, but we also had like the dystopian era and a different kind of era. And I guess now we're moving into the romance era, but it's nice to have explorations of other genres around it.
Yeah, that's for sure. It is really interesting because I think YA, considering how much like it can get quite negative and quite like anti like good stuff in the discourse, YA has a chokehold on what trends are going to be like swinging through, because you think, yeah, you've got like dystopias, high fantasy, low fantasy, like vampire stories. Like you can almost tell what's going to come swinging in adult and new adult fantasy genres from seeing what's happened a few months previously in YA or like a year before in YA. Now, I appreciate, obviously, you'll have more of an experience in this than we do, because obviously books are chosen like 3 years in advance before they ever like make it to like where we are as reviewers. But it's really interesting, of the hundreds of thousands of books that get published, there will be like 5 that fit all the same kind of tropes and genres, and YA will just be like, these are ours now. This is for us.
Yeah. I think it also happens with unknowingly authors moving around into what they want to write. Like, for example, Elizabeth Acevedo's novel in verse, and now she's going into adult fiction that's going to carry her writing style up into making like prose more poetic. And then like Benjamin Dean has like these 2 middle grade novels, and he's not just, but then he came out with this young adult book, and he's carried his thing into another age audience. And oftentimes they're like carrying things through. Or creating them themselves. Like, for example, let's say Colleen Hoover decides she's going to write a fantasy thing next and break away from romance. She's going to carry through a whole new trend because everyone will read that. Which I find interesting. But saying that, should we do our first reading sprint?
Let's, because I am going to use this sprint to decide if I'm going to DNF it or not. If I can read a solid chunk, I might keep going, but
okay, we're gonna read for 30 minutes to warm up, and it's gonna be chaotic as always because I don't set timers. So I'll be keeping the time, and hopefully we'll be reading until 20 past.
Awesome.
Great, let's go for it. It's the end of our first reading sprint. Hello, Abby.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I turned off my camera just because I was enjoying the book that I just finished that Chris got me for Valentine's.
Just
It's
finished.
so adorable. These two already know how I reacted to reading the first volume of this. So I was doing that with the camera off because I felt limited by the fact that people could see my face. It's adorable. It's so cute. So cute. So I was drinking the hot chocolate made with the little whisk that he got me and eating the multicolored Haribo hearts.
Very
Because
cute.
he's adorable. I know, it's taboo to mention on a Galentines. I'm sorry, but he bought me this, so like, come on.
It's perfectly fine to mention. These Galentines is so fake that even I didn't plan them to be Galentines. I was just going to do reading sprints. Then I was like, Hannah, how about reading sprints on Tuesday? And she was like, Valentine's Day. And I was like, oh, Valentine's Day. That's the level of single I am.
If it makes you feel any better, I skipped over the Valentine's section of Sainsbury's and went straight to the Easter section. So I've got dairy milk mini eggs.
Sorry, that's a crime.
No, tomorrow. Tomorrow she goes back to the shop and she looks at the Valentine's section when it's all on sale.
That's smart. I'm still mad at you for getting Easter stuff in February.
Well, I actually bought 6 different packs of different little eggs to see which ones I liked best. So.
I've never been more upset that you're not here. Like, I'm not being funny. Like, you're getting all these snacks, and I'm like, I went shopping and didn't get snacks, and now I'm like, I regret that decision to not get snacks. But also, Sainsbury's literally like took away the Christmas section and just replaced it with Easter.
Mm-hmm.
In January, so that was I didn't agree with that either, Olivia. I'm with you on that, but also Easter chocolate is good. Why is Easter chocolate better than normal chocolate? I don't know.
But they used to put out the Easter chocolate like a few days before Christmas Eve when I used to work in Derek Smith's.
That's even
like
worse.
It was a whole thing. I used to think my mother was lying because she worked there before me. As like a second job, and so that's why I worked there. And I used to think she was making it up when she said, like, yeah, we've already got the Easter stuff in. And then I worked there and I was like, what?
I love looking at the sell-by date. And if it's like before Easter and it's like, well, what's the point?
Why have you done this?
The UK doesn't celebrate Carnival the way the Netherlands does because the UK is boring. So that's why
you're not wrong.
We have our entire culture is just stealing other people's culture. So.
Yeah,
the one thing that we've got that is like ours is like traditionally our culture, because I put on Twitter the other day, if you could move your birth date to a different day, when would it be? And I said that I would rather have my birthday in November because then fireworks, right? And then loads of Americans were like, why would you have fireworks in November? I'm like, oh, because we celebrate this guy not killing the monarchy one time 400 years ago, and that is a very British thing to do.
Yeah. Although, right, I only found out last Guy Fawkes night, for anyone who's wanting to look it up, that he was a Tory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. What? Brain confused.
But there weren't really like full parties then, the way there are now. There were like, I think
he was an
older
older
Whigs and there's something else, but they were essentially all Tories.
But yeah, he came from York, I think, because we've got loads of pubs for him here.
But not to change the subject, we still need to talk about how reading went because I'm seeing everybody's comments about how reading went. So yeah, how did reading go for you, Hannah? You were deciding whether you want to DNF or keep reading A Diary of Blood.
See, I read it really quickly. I do read it really. Admittedly, it does help that some pages just straight up aren't pages. Sometimes they're just that. So that helps. I read about 40 pages. I'm now on page 98. I'm officially a third, and the Sapphic has started. And I still don't care, so I'm just going to do that for it.
I applaud this decision.
So I now have options. I'm either going to pick up this, which I'm reading for Ali's readathon, or this, which I'm doing for a not so secret vlog.
Oh, I wonder what that vlog could be.
What could it
Oh,
be?
Death Comes to Pemberley.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm moving closer.
I was like, what is that?
I was doing the same. I was like,
It's because that one's like nice and big. Like it's very clear what that one is.
Yeah.
And that one, it's like so.
I vote Death Comes to Pemberley, just for the closeness of reading along the themed lines. I'm trying not to give away your theme here, but like I think
It's really obvious what the theme is. Like this is the thing, is I keep saying it's a secret vlog. It isn't really. The secret is I don't know when I'm going to post it, because the plan is to do it in like chunks anyway. So
how about your night circus reading, Lizzie?
Well, I'm not quite where I'm supposed to be. I'm now at like 87. I think I've got like just under 100 pages to catch up to the buddy read. But it is a reread, and the reason it's taking me longer, I've realized, is because I am reading every single annotation I've made, and this idiot is an idiot, and I am getting an insurmountable amount of joy reading these really crappy annotations. And I've like put random drawings. I drew a ring for no reason. At one point, I was like, "Great."
I still think that one you told me about the other day, the you know exactly which one I mean, right?
Okay, so when I first read this,
It's so good.
When I say I'm an idiot, like, I just need you to understand that I am actually an idiot. Because there's a phrase, and it's not in English, and I just underlined it, and I wrote French.
you didn't even translate it.
Mm-mm.
No. I've written translations later on of like words I don't know the meaning of. I've done that. But I just wrote French. You know, like that's important.
When I read books with foreign words in them, I don't look them up. I just gather their meaning from what happens next and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
I usually don't look them up unless it's an insult that I want to know more specifics on. Or in Les Mis, there have been a couple of big paragraphs where in my editions, some of them have been translated and some of them haven't. And so because I'm making annotations anyway, I'm like, I'll write it down so that if I reread it, I have it here in English.
And then it's helpful because in our discussion, Abby's like, and this was said in French. And I was like, oh, thank you. I just moved on.
I was like, it was? Oh, okay.
Looked at it and went, oh, that's some French. You did what Lizzie did. You went, oh, French.
Yeah, exactly. That's what my brain does. Sometimes I can understand it a bit, but then that's it. That's as far as it goes.
No, that's fair.
I've added post-it notes in, right? This post-it note really helps. It's a Domino's post-it note that I got from uni. And it basically is just a chapter roundup, a summary of what happened in the chapter I've just read. So I read this post-it note and went, okay, great, I'll write that.
It's almost like you thought you were going to write an essay on it and then you never did.
Or if you were like, oh yeah, I'm going to pause this for like a month. So here's what just happened.
To be fair, sometimes you do need that. But one of my favorite romance tropes is when someone has like a nickname for them in a different language and they think it's an insult the entire time, and then it turns out to be like something really sweet. That's like one of my favorite tropes. It's like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb and I love it so much.
It's so specific.
It's very specific. It was one of the things where like I think I saw someone mention it on TikTok one time like 5 years ago, and now anytime I see it I'm like, this is going to get 5 stars, because I know for sure that it happens in the Mediator series by Meg Cabot, which is basically straight up a rip-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's so good. It's 6 books of just her like hunting ghosts. She's got a watcher that is just this old guy that reads books because she refuses to, and she's constantly talking about boyfriends and dressing well. Like, it is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Her cat is called Spike, right? There's loads of stuff going on, but the whole time I think he calls her something like Corrida or something like that, and it basically like means like princess or something sweet like that. And she's just like, oh, he keeps insulting me. I don't know what it means, but it sounds like really mean. I'm like, girl, really. So I'm here for it.
And I've almost finished this book. It's really short, and usually graphic novels take me a long time, but her artwork is so like bold and simple all the time. So I think I've got like 5 pages left. But it's been a good time.
Well, that's not a bad thing, you know,
It's not a
because
bad
it's
thing.
not like you've not got like a massive lead in our TBR challenge as it is.
Yes, that is true. And then my next read is going to be this, Abby. So we'll catch up. Well, I still need to catch up. But
I have it up here handily. I didn't even mean to. It's just up here because the other option is on the sofa, and that gets annoying. Chapter 9 or whatever the hell book we're in, mine is translated as A Place for Arriving at Convictions. That's where I'm at. Have you got the same edition as me?
Yeah.
Good. 180. Page 180. That's a lot easier. I didn't know what edition she was reading, so this entire time I've been like, yeah, it's around this section.
You kept saying like
so
different
much
edition,
easier,
and I was
yeah.
like, we have the same edition, I'm so sure.
I didn't know.
But-
The last time we properly talked about editions, you said you were going to read it via ebook.
Oh, that's because I was in Berlin and I didn't have it with me.
Yeah.
So I was reading the ebook meanwhile, yeah.
So I was like, okay, she's on an ebook edition, but like at least she can find the chapters easily.
I
That's why
switched a
I've been
long
doing
time
it that way.
But yeah.
You just never clarified afterwards that you were reading in paper.
Sorry. I'll catch up, and then I don't know if I can restart yet, because I don't know if
No worries.
I'll be able to.
I mean, I'm reading a million things at once anyway, so of course. And then I added another book.
Hannah, do you want to answer this question?
Olivia's winning. So Olivia is currently at like minus 480 something stupid. Like it's not
Approximately.
But like, to be fair, I made a mistake. I was in the minus. I was at minus 14. And then I went to Newcastle and went to Forbidden Planet, and they were doing 3 for 2 on mangas. And I overindulged. And now I'm not in the minuses anymore. So it's fine. I'm just going to go back to Banbury next week and I'm haul just a whole bunch. And I'm going to make a list so that it is exactly 1 less than your minuses.
No, that's not fair.
The thing is, I would love if Hannah actually comes and does that, because then I can just like get a whole load of books that Hannah doesn't want anymore.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about like, oh, will I get the selection after like me and Olivia will get sent the photos after Lizzie's had her pick? Like, ooh.
Well, this is the thing, is like Lizzie was like, you could just unhaul a whole bunch to me because then they're still in the house. And I was like, I could do that, but I'm not going to, because I might be spiteful, but I'm not a cheat.
So when I win, I'm going to win fair and square.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because then if I lose, at least it's like, okay, fair enough. I lost. If I lose to someone cheating, that would just make me sad. So I wouldn't do that to you, Olivia.
You're not cheating, because like I would want those books. They're playing devil's advocate. Playing devil's advocate. That's not cheating.
Devil advocate. You're not doing devil advocate. You're just trying to steal her books because you want them.
Yeah. You don't understand. I have to look at them every single day in the living room. They are always there. There are books I've got my eyes on, and now I know they're.
You can probably read them if you ask
What
her.
books have you got your eyes on?
You know exactly which books I've got my eyes on. I already got one of them, that was just Tea Apollo Blue. I had my eye on that one.
Yeah, I knew about that one, which is why I was happy to unhaul that one. Well, that didn't even count. That didn't even count because I've already read it last year.
Yeah, but I know, but there is a series. There was a book series that you're not going to continue.
Oh, are you talking about the Suki Stackhouse ones?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm currently reading. I think I've got it over here actually. One sec. I'm currently reading Dead Until Dark. Still, because I started. I don't know if you can hear me because I'm behind my laptop.
We can.
Okay, good. I started this as like a start to finish sprint, right? Now, start to finish sprints, I'm always really proud of myself because every single one, even if I'm there at like 11 o'clock at night, I finish the book that I started. I started this book at 9 o'clock in the morning. I gave up at 7:30 because that's how far I got in. Because this book, the way it's written, is really dense. It's not even necessarily that it's like formatted densely, but like every sentence has about 8 different things going on in it. And I was like, what is happening? So it reads really slow. And I was like, I'm never going to finish that. And then I was like, do I want to finish this series? I feel like I just want to watch the TV show again. So again, may DNF this one, and then Lizzie can have 10 books because it's a box set. So
As much as it pains me that you're not in, you're just not getting on with it.
yeah,
I would happily take those books from you, because then I can relive another teenage vampire book series and probably dislike it more than I did when I was younger, because I fucking loved those books.
But this is the thing, is you really enjoy the Morganfield Vampire ones, and you're continuing that series with Amy, and I'm just like, cool, it's another vampire series. And like, I will point out that Olivia asked me if I was doing a vlog because I was reading like 5 vampire novels at once. It's like, I don't even like vampires that much anymore.
I haven't read any more of the second book of Morganfield Vampires after I told you the thing that happened in book 2, and I haven't read past that point because I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this book series anymore, and it's giving me pain. Like, it's giving me pain because it was my favorite like vampire book series as like a teenager. I'm like, this experience is ruining them a little bit for me.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I mean, that would be a third. I'd be a third of the way there if I got rid of this lot too.
And a lot of the ones that you got were mangas, so they're pretty quick reads if you actually read what you bought.
Yeah, but they're not going to count. I was thinking about this maths-wise, because they're not really going to count as anything if I read them. Because technically that would just take me back down to 0, as opposed to it. Because it's not like...
but getting to 0 helps you. It still helps you.
Yeah.
You know, I know, but it's not as good as like if I read books that I've already got, because that's just straight up
Well,
on my...
obviously, but you've already bought them. It's just damage control.
No, I get that. I do get that. What I'm saying
If you didn't want to have this issue, you shouldn't have bought them.
Hey,
I'm aware. I'm aware.
An idea for you. You should do a haul and a reading vlog, so you can just read all of those in like 2 days, like a weekend, and then like, right, I'm back at 0. Now I'm going to go and read a whole bunch of others.
I was talking to Jamie about this because obviously Jamie was there when I bought all these books. Jamie did not stop me. Literally, this is an impression of what I was doing, is Jamie went, oh, that one looks good. And I went, yep, I'll have that. And he was like, that one looks good. I was like, yep, I'll have that one too. Like, he's like, didn't Jem talk about this one? Yeah, Jem did. I'll take that one too. Like, honest, he was awful. And then he was like, well, just do that vlog. Like, you did a vlog before where you read graphic novels. And I was like, Jamie, do you remember what happened in that vlog? I started it. I got every graphic novel that I owned on my TBR. And I was like, I'm going to see how many of these I can get through in 24 hours. Because I've got the whole house to myself for 24 hours. How many of these can I read? I got 3 graphic novels in. Then I watched a man nearly get hit by a lorry trying to like hurt himself, get arrested, had an emotional breakdown, did not finish that vlog. And I was like, I'm not risking it. So, no. Absolutely not.
That is intense.
It was very intense. It is the vlog that's named started a vlog, had a breakdown, bought up a seat.
I think I saw it. I think I saw it.
It was an entertaining time.
But you'll be in Banbury and not Kent, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the upside is we're not on a main road anymore. Because like where I used to live in Folkestone, it's on a main road. There's a council estate at the top of the hill, and there are all the pubs and stuff at the bottom of the hill. So there's constantly people moving from one to the other. And sometimes that means it's a great time, because the amount of stag doos I've seen wandering down the hill, like you'll just see like a group of stormtroopers or Vikings or something. That's great. I'm so here for that. I have watched the same girl break up with 4 boyfriends. And I wish I was kidding. She used to live.
That sounds like part of the background, like setup of like a noughties YA teenage, like young YA novel. Like what was it? Ali's World. That would be in Ali's World.
It was very much like Ali's that. World. With its like very peripheral stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there would be fights and stuff. It was wild.
I used to love those.
Which is very weird considering what I read now.
And not so weird considering what I read now.
At least you read contemporary.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is like very far back into the conversation. I do not approve of the unhaul idea. I saw your TBR video, and I think you've got a lot of great books on there, and you should just read them.
Should we read them all, should I? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
We've got a novel here, guys.
Exactly.
Wow.
Also, I started this one,
Mhm.
which we only just did the live show for. And my edition, I know that Becca's got a different one. I'm not sure which one everyone has. But a lot of us have got this edition because we got them through Waypoint Books. It mentions the fact that there's no plot and no character development in the foreword. Like, it's literally...
So funny. That's so funny.
That's amazing. That is like the best content warning. It's like, if you're coming here for content, don't.
This is
Nobody,
all
I suspect, reads the Hitchhikers books for their plot. Not many, I suppose, read them for their characters, apart from Marvin. So why is it that we love these books so much?
It's a fair
That's
question.
Incredible.
Also, I also agree with the Marvin love. It's like the only character that we are here for is Marvin. The rest of it is just the random
He's great
stuff.
mental health rep, to be fair.
He is. He's like a robot eagle.
Yeah. But
And if anyone was wondering, this is adorable. I'm just staring at it. I need to put it somewhere because I'm just going to stare at it.
I do love that you got those because we were in Waterstones and I think you just text like a photo of all of the editions that they had.
I assume this is where he got it because he's not had. I usually am the one that gets the parcels, and he's not had a parcel this size come through. So I think he got it from Waterstones. So I need to send him more pictures the next time I go to Waterstones.
Well, I'm going to need every single edition, Hannah. So
I'm aware.
yeah.
I know.
And
I've made a list.
I haven't even started the first one, but I know I'm going to love it, and it's entirely your fault, Abby.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know that the moment you finish the first one, you're going to need the second one. I'm aware. I know.
I
Also,
already
you know, for the next 7 months, that's all that's going to be in your subscription box. That's
Good.
fine.
That's all I want.
Oh, they're adorable. For context, manga about it's a self-described on the synopsis elderly gentleman who looks like 50 who adopts a cat after losing his wife. His wife passes away, and they love each other and they look after each other. Like the cat was unwanted, and they love each other, and it's so cute. It's so cute.
I love that noise. That was a great noise.
Why do you think I have to turn the camera off?
No, that's fair. To answer the question though, Deathless Girls by Kira Morwood Hargraves.
Yeah.
Have any of you read Summer Under Nightfall by Rinch Becker?
Isn't that like brand new out?
November or October 22.
That's pretty brand new. But no, I haven't yet.
Well, it came in the Goldsboro box, so I've read it. And very, very, very different. Thank you.
Sorry, I really enjoyed that I pulled the face and then immediately watched Lizzie pull the exact same face. We're great friends, guys.
They weren't copying each other. There's just a delay. But yeah, it's really not what I would usually read because I don't read vampires. Haven't read vampires since Twilight. And I read Twilight as it released. We're getting old, lads. And then, like, the action and adventure side of it, great. But there's also a polyamorous relationship with a fair number of smutty scenes. And I enjoyed it.
I'm not going to order it for myself anytime soon because I am not buying any more books until at least I get to 0, and then I might.
Also, you don't like vampire books. We've established this.
I know,
today.
but it sounds really good.
I will say this wasn't like this wasn't at all in the slightest similar to Twilight, which is my only form of reference, and it seems to be like a common thing from what I've been told. Like, there's no like, oh, turn me. No.
Twilight is not the best point of reference for vampire.
No.
It's one of the best known ones, but it's not actually like.
Yeah, it's all about this world where the vampires are hunted like it's a job, that people go and hunt them and kill them, and this bloke has that job, but he's on the outcast at the edge of society because people for some reason think that I can't remember the name for it, but like think that his mum was a vampire and was like turned when she was pregnant with him, so he's like part vampire, even though as far as he knows he's not. And so he then is hunting all these vampires and killing them, and then ends up in a polyamorous relationship with 2 vampires.
Well, what is wild is my horror shelf. I was looking on it. The only vampire book on this shelf is The Deathless Girls. So it has to be The Deathless Girls because it made the shelf. And if I did own it, which I don't, it would be Empire of the Vampire by J. Christoph. But like, if you don't like J. Christoph or his morals, you're not going to read it. But it was a fantastic vampire book, and I fucking loved every second of it. And I love vampire books. But Death of Scars is way better, and it's a hell of a lot shorter.
It's a great vibe.
Yeah,
and much less problematic.
Mm-hmm. Hence why I own this one and not the other one that I mentioned.
Yeah, blaming authors.
I don't think there is a best vampire book. If I'm going to just recommend some good ones, these are not by merit of the books, but by the creativity of how they did vampires. So I am going to put Twilight on the list, okay? Also Dracula, because I actually think it is a good story.
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
The Mortal Instruments, okay, has a really good depiction of vampires, even if it's not the main thing. Like, I like how vampires are done in that series.
I'll give you that.
I'm
I'll
a
give you that.
I'm a dirty liar. Carmilla is also on this.
That's on my
I'm
shelf
a
to
dirty
read.
liar.
It's on the shelf. I did not enjoy this though, I will say.
No!
So
I want to pick it up.
I don't like it for a very specific reason, and it's the writing style.
Okay.
The plot and like the fact that it is sapphic when it was like in the time that it was written, fantastic. So I think if you like classics, I'm not a classics person. If
It's
you
me and
like
Olivia.
classics, you will like it. Like you will love this. It just was the writing style was not for me. But I would just thought I'd point out that I'm a liar. There's 2 books on my shelf. When you said Dracula, I was like, oh shit, yeah, this exists.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a real bee in my bonnet about Interview with a Vampire, because I do think that was when I truly acknowledged my issue with vampire novels. And I watched a video recently that was essentially, why are all vampires Confederates? Because I was like, why are all vampires Confederates? Why is that a running thing? And obviously because being a Brit was not taught much about the American Civil War until like way later. So I didn't really understand. I knew that Confederates were bad. I knew they were racist, but I didn't know like the intricacies of why and how and stuff like that. So I will absolutely share the video to you guys if you want it, because it was really, really interesting. But what this reviewer basically boils down is the reason so many vampires in modern novels are racist or Confederates is because they are hella racist in An Interview with a Vampire. And it kind of like all stems from that. And it's really interesting because it's such a prolific book. So boring though. There are no chapters. It's all just monologue.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
But there are a lot of witches, they don't get spoken about as much, but Black vampire books. And then they're not Confederates. So, I mean, Fledgling by Octavia Butler, take with a pinch of salt, because she does the whole reverse thing where the vampire is trapped as a child and falls in love with someone older, which can make it hard to read, but is refreshing because it's reversing the trope that's often used. But also like Jewel Gomez's book, forgetting the title right now. And there's a couple of others that are like Black vampire books, which all sound very, very good and seem like they're doing something like exploring something slightly different, which
I need to read some Octavia Butler, and I have to find the vampire one.
you should start with Kindred though. Just saying, you should start with Kindred.
Is
I
it
know.
Don't Explain? Is that the vampire one?
Sorry?
Is it Don't Explain, the vampire one?
Which do you mean?
Jewel Gomez.
No. The cover has like an eye. Oh my gosh. I can see it in my head and I can't see the cover.
The only thing Google's throwing up is the Gilda Stories.
Yes,
Don't
the Gilda
Explain.
Stories.
Oh, the Gilda Stories. Okay.
The Gilda Stories.
The only other vampire book I can recommend is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland, because it's vampires, but it's done in a completely different way. And again, that's another sapphic one, and it was absolutely amazing. It's a book of 2 halves, I will just say. The second half and the first half are not.
It's almost like they cooked 2 completely different books. It reads like a duology squished into one book.
But it's a great vampire book, in my opinion.
And we should also plug Mina and the Undead by Amy McCall.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, and Mina and the Undead is up on my series shelf again, which is why it's not behind me, so that's why I don't think
also,
of it.
Congrats to Amy for selling third book.
Third book in series coming.
This is the thing, is I say I don't like vampire books, and then straight up there's 3 or 4 there that I'm like, yeah, I love that. Ravenous Dark, Deathless Girls, Mina, love them all.
I think like Twilight has given like a English it's your first language, woman. Why have you forgotten the words? I don't know, but like a bad name to vampire books. Like you hear vampire books, and usually your first thought, regardless of how many you've read, is, oh yeah, Twilight.
I don't know if it's a bad name though.
I was about to
feel
say.
like,
But
I,
it,
feel
it
like
has
I really enjoyed Twilight. I mean, recently, obviously, Lizzie read
Midnight Sun.
That's it. I was gonna say Morning Stars. Like that's not correct. That's a completely different series. But it is. Like, I do completely get what you're saying. For me personally, I have tried loads of vampire books recently. Like that aren't Twilight, that have no inclination towards Twilight or Twilight style vampires at all. And I think I've just exhausted it for myself. Like, you know, when you get to a certain point with a trope where you're like, I loved this, but now I've done it too much. Like if you have the same meal too often and you're like, I don't like this anymore. And it's like, it's not that necessarily I don't like it, because like I said, there's at least 3 that we've mentioned thus far. Like Dracula,
so it needs to do more to impress you.
It's more just like, yeah, it has to be special. And I'm like that with Beauty and the Beast retellings as well. Because like I've read last year, it was either last year or the year before last, I kept reading them and it wasn't even intentional. Like I'd pick up a book and be like, this sounds like
It's
a really
because everybody was writing them. Like before it was Cinderella, and then everybody got exhausted of Cinderella, and then they moved on to Beauty and the Beast, and then
You know what really pisses me off is Little Red Riding Hood retellings. No, which are marketed as Red Riding Hood retellings. Oh no, sorry, they're Beauty and the Beast retellings. Those I can't stand.
You're saying that as if that's an entire category.
It is. It is. In my head, it is. And it really bothers me because I don't want a Beauty and the Beast retelling. You sold me a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I'm not here for Beauty and the Beast retelling.
I do feel like they are a very different vibe. And like, yeah, I was sold Little Red Riding Hood with For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. And not only that, Hannah Witten was dropping hints of that and the Foxglove Prince, whatever it is, that she's just released, that were like really deep and moody and gothic and like Lost in the Woods vibe. And I was like, I'm so here for this. And then I read it and I was like, it's Beauty and the Beast, but she gets dirt under her fingernails. That's literally the only thing that's like woodsy about it. I love that that's a Briar Rose.
You came in at the perfect time. We're talking about fairy tale retellings. Hello.
I will just say, back to Tamar's question, I would start with Nina and the Undead for vampire books if I were you, because it's a good introduction to vampires. So that'd be where I would start. And
Do not include Beauty and the Beast in your retelling.
It's fine. Lizzie and I will buy it regardless. And then if it is Beauty and the Beast, we'll just whinge about it.
I tell you what you need to do for me to buy it is put a wolf on the cover, because it doesn't matter what genre. If there's a wolf on the cover, you better believe I'm picking that shit up. But also,
Lizzie, for your birthday, I'm getting you a book on the autocology of wolves.
Do it.
Oh my god, don't, because we'd love that. And I say we because I'd absolutely borrow it.
Hannah got me something. I don't know if it's here.
Oh, that's the vampire book that I bought you.
I don't know where the heck I put it, but she bought me this like compendium of vampires, and it was one of the best like afternoons, like a couple of Alex Hour. It's a picture book.
Kids.
And it's like all these different vampire types. I had such a good time with it. So get me anything about like wolves, like anything about like, you know, coyotes and
Like
stuff.
you want like a full scientific non-fiction book about wolves?
Yeah. Love that.
We're going to do a reading sprint in 1 minute and 55, but I just want to say, Lizzie, if you have heard about Wolfish by Erica Berry, I know I'm plugging my own publishing company's books right now, but
do it.
It's non-fiction. It's about wolves and women's fear.
I have not, but I will put it on the list. Hannah, remember that.
Guess what you'll be getting in your sub box.
That's so unfair, Lizzie. Lizzie's just like, I live with a bookseller. Add it to your list.
It's so funny because, like, I do feel like sometimes Lizzie almost treats me like a concierge for books, and it'll just be like, and that one. Oh yes, I want the 1992 Bordeaux, but it's not. It's a book. It'll be like, oh yes, add it to the list. Add it to my tab.
How dare I want to spend my money at your bookshop and not Wolfstone's? How dare I?
Well, the thing that kills me about it is everyone else, they pay, their books arrive. usually I remember to invoice people if I'm sending them abroad. Lizzie pays me at the end of the month. And it always kills me because Lizzie will walk away with stacks. And then at the end of the month, I'll be like, so you owe me this much for books. And Lizzie will go, okay. It's dangerous.
Yes, Abby?
Just before we answer Barry Rose's question, Hannah, you never sent me the invoice for these, ever.
No, I
I
didn't send anyone an invoice for those.
Are we getting them free?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
I've just been meaning to mention it multiple times, be like, I need to pay Hannah for these.
It's really funny. My sister-in-law, she lives in or Gibraltar, so I send her stuff because they've only recently had a bookshop open, and it's at the back of an art store, so they only have like 5 things in, and at the moment it's mainly Colleen Hoover, so she's like not interested. So she gets stuff sent in from me, and because she has to pay more to get it shipped over there, we do it through DHL because it works out quicker. Because she has to wait like 8 weeks otherwise if we send it through Royal Mail. She will always be like, and don't forget to add the postage. And I'll be like, yeah, I will. And then like there'll be books that I've unhauled that she's having. So then I have to like do maths there. And then she'll be like, and don't forget the postage. I'm like, I won't forget the postage. Let me just work out how much the postage is going to be. And then I'll let you know. And then she'll pay for all of the books. And she'll be like, did you add the postage? And I'll be like, I don't know. I don't know if I did. Because that's how you run a business.
So buy from Waypoint Books.
It's a lot easier if people just do it through the website, to be honest, because then it's all there. It's there and it's done.
We just go, Hannah.
Yeah, it is the people that message me and go specifically, can I have this thing? And I'm like, well, is it on the site? And they're like, but can I have it anywhere? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, fine. Then I forget because I'm doing like 100 other things. So it's that.
Okay, guys, we're going to do a reading sprint. I love you all dearly, but we need to do some reading too.
Sorry, we just don't shut up, do we?
Never
A
ever.
reading sprint is where we are quiet and just read together, and then we come back at the end and we talk about what we've read, how we're doing, and it's just to like focus us.
It's good motivation to sit and read rather than end up scrolling on your phone.
Yes.
For me.
And we shall read for 45 minutes. Cool. See you then. It's the end of our probably last reading sprint, I have to be honest. I don't think I can stay awake for another one. That's what the truth of the matter is.
That's totally fair.
For this one, I finished reading Embroideries. It was a nice ending. I read 20 pages of Les Mis, so I'm 10 pages away from where we need to be, Abby.
Nice.
And I started What Moves the Dead and read the first chapter.
Awesome. I managed to get through a lot of my reading. I'm reading an ebook. This is a Kindle. Hannah told me to pick up, which is Superior, a book on race science and nonfiction. So I'm reading a chapter of that each day. Sometimes more, it depends on if I get through everything else. So I read my chapter of that, and then I read 2 chapters of City of Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And then I read 2 chapters of The Second Shadow by Rick Brown.
Yay.
Are you enjoying it, Superior?
Yes, it's so interesting. It's written by someone with Indian heritage. They're British. And so, one, them being British, we read a lot of American stuff. So it's nice to see something that has our viewpoint on it to kind of understand it intrinsically a bit more. But also, it is actually delving into the scientific research that has been done and is being done on race, and whether any of it matters at all, and the ways that some of it does matter is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm loving it. I'm highlighting so much of it.
I was the same. I was the same. Like, I was just like, I was going to annotate it, and in the end, I just highlighted bits. And I was like, I am just highlighting the whole book at this point.
Sometimes I'm putting comments in. It's like, WTF, really? Oh my god, typical, like one word like snappers. And then I've just gotten to the bit where it's not technically a spoiler because it's a non-fiction.
It's history, yeah.
I've just gotten to, the last chapter I read was the section where it said that the Cheddar Man, which, if people don't know, is an ancient corpse essentially that was found in the UK in some of the Cheddar caves, hence the name, is thought to have been black from the DNA analysis of their bones. And so now they believe that the people who built Stonehenge were likely black, or at least they had enough melanin in their skin that today they would have been considered under the racial category as black. And considering that so many Brits are like, oh, Britain's always been white, it's chef's kiss. I love it.
It is really interesting, and like I really liked because it's very, very dense. I wouldn't recommend it if it's like, oh, I don't usually read nonfiction, but I'll give it a go because it is quite dense. There's a great audiobook for it if you do want to try it and you're not a massive nonfiction fan. But my favorite, like, there's like bits in like the prologue that kind of are then it's just her response to this stuff. And like there's a line very early on that's essentially like, so I went to the British Museum to find something that was considered British. And it was just like it's that kind of thing.
She struggled.
Yeah, it was, yeah, but it's really interesting because she's not backwards in this is my perspective because like and I'm completely here for that because I feel like Sandy Toxic does something very similar in her what's it called, Almanac or whatever, where like she's like, there's going to be lots of women of color in this. I'm writing about them from my perspective as to who these women are. Obviously, like I'm not going to get 100% everything, and I really, really like that. I'm actually reading Inferior by the same author for March. That's my March TBR.
I will say as well that she mentioned something similar to what you said that Sandy said, but I found it also very interesting as a Brit, which is that she said, you know, like as someone who is of like South Asian descent, I can't comment on the experience of other races, but she's old enough that she was categorized as black in the UK under our system. And that's just like I knew that happened, but like it didn't click in my head, and I was like, that's weird. Like it's it's very, very well written. I will say you're right in that like if you don't read nonfiction, it will be quite a heavy one. Worth kind of plowing through it and taking time with it. because this is a very interesting and very important topic, because people try and use like eugenics and stuff. But if you read nonfiction, like, it's fine. It's not an easy read, you know, it's not like reading a memoir of someone, but it is completely fine to read if you read a lot of nonfiction. I'm reading it before bed. Like, one of the chapters, I read an entire chapter at 5 a.m. Like, me and Chris walked home after the Super Bowl. So yes, also Super Bowl. So drank a lot. Walked home, managed to get him home without him falling in the road or in the ooze or something. And then he went to sleep, and because I'm reading it on my Kindle, I just sat there and read a chapter before I went to sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's not like easy, but it's also not difficult to comprehend.
No, it's not difficult to. I don't mean it's.
No, it's just not like, you know, like an easy dive into someone.
Yeah, it's written like a social sciences book. Like it's written, almost textbook like. It's dense in that. But no, that's. I'm really glad you're enjoying it though, because I do talk about that book as often as I can.
I had it. I completely, because it's on my Kindle, I completely 100% forgot I had it. And one, I'm now loving reading on my Kindle. And two, this book is amazing, and I'm going to have to get myself a physical copy. Find it for Waypoint, please.
It's on the site already. It lives there. I love reading it. Yeah.
And the other books I'm reading as well are pretty good. Both of them are fantasy ones. Middle grade?
That's fair.
Fantasy, Egyptian mythology is a lot of fun. I knew some Egyptian mythology. That was like the mythology that I liked as a kid, but I never dove deep into it. I'm loving it. When me and Chris went to the cat cafe yesterday, I saw this cat and I just decided that's Bast, which is the Egyptian cat god. Like, without even thinking. So I'm loving that. And then this is a very interesting and beautiful, like, high fantasy. Like, there's a lot about gods and they're real. But like, if they're not prayed to, they're a bit like
American gods.
Like,
it sounds like American gods as well.
Similar to that as well, yeah. Where if they're not prayed to, they lose their power. But there's only really one god that we're following where we actually see the god, and it's just this one poor priest that's trying to keep him alive. Because it's like, well, I feel bad if he dies, but he's a bit of a dick. It's fantastic. So I'm having a good time.
You're having a great time.
How about you, Lizzie?
I'm almost caught up on the buddy read pages. I have 15 pages, and then I'm up to date. Which
are you enjoying it?
I'm not enjoying it as much as I did when I first read it.
Hannah, don't call that face.
Sorry.
I think the thing is, when I first read this, I read it like basically all in one go. And I was like really into like the magical kind of like atmosphere. Like the atmosphere is still fantastic, but everything is a little bit too vague right now. And I think I looked past it on a first read because it is so magical, and like I still get the same sense of being able to like feel like I am there. Like the scenes where they talk about the circus in detail, I'm like, oh, I can imagine that like vividly. Like that's still amazing. But the actual story is a little bit too vague. Because I love a book that's no plot, all vibes. Like, don't get me wrong, I love books like that. But I think just on a reread, this isn't as fantastic as I remembered it being. I think it's still not going to go like star rating wise. Like I gave this a 5 stars when I first like read it, and I think it's probably going to be a 4 or a 4.5. Like it's not
pretty high. That's still good.
It's still good. Like it's still good, and I'm still really enjoying it. But there's just other books I've read recently that I've enjoyed more, and I'm pretty convinced now Clara and the Sun has hit the top spot, like for sure now, because that's kind of one of the things I wanted to do was to reread this book, because I said for ages this was my favorite book. But on a reread, it's still great, but I feel like I've read slightly better books in the last 3 years since I read this one.
And that's fair. That happens.
It happens.
The reason I pulled the face is because I always feel like I'm breaking people's hearts when I say that I hated that book. So I just didn't. But then I said this to Lizzie the other day when we were talking about you picking it up again. I was like, I have been tempted to try and reread it, because I was reading it whilst I was teaching, and I wanted something that would help my brain switch off. And I kept waiting for plot, and plot never happened. So I do feel like that very much shaded it in the same way that like I was a lot more harsh with Amari and the Night Brothers than I ever needed to be, because I listened to it whilst being stuck on the M25 for 8 hours.
Mood does affect, or what you want from a book when you go in does affect how you take it. That's why I'm all for pausing things or putting things down for a bit if you're not in the mood. But the night circus is one I refuse to read. I just know I'm not going to like it from what people say about it, and I'm not going to spend my time on it.
Do you still think like the writing style is like amazing? Like I really enjoy it, and it's a very gentle read. Like for me, I'm just kind of like, I'm really tired, but I didn't even realize that it was nearly 10 o'clock until I looked at the clock and I was like, oh shit, like I've been reading 45 minutes. Like it didn't feel like I was reading 45 minutes. So I will say that it does feel like a gentle read. And it is just, it's very whimsical. And I guess, again, Hannah, that's the reason why you didn't like it, because whimsy isn't really your deal. And this is a very much whimsy. Is this adult? I don't really know.
Adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is adult.
I think it was marketed as a YA, but I don't think it's actually written like a YA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a gentle read. I think it's a very easy read. So, I mean, I think fair enough if you're not going to pick it up. Because I've read a book since I picked it up the first time. It's like a really weird feeling I'm getting this time, like reading it.
That is fair. I did want to say some people are reading books I love, like Annihilation. It is so good. I hope you have fun with it. It's just such a unique sci-fi read and a very good film. I think this is one of the best series finales ever, because series finales are often very disappointing in my opinion, or I don't get there because I do have book series so easily. But this was a good one. Gaming is a good thing to do before sleep. I'm probably going to go and play Sudoku for 15 minutes and then go to sleep, which is exactly what you should do before you go to sleep. Play a brain game.
For sure.
My dad's favorite thing to do before he sleeps is to read, because reading sends him to sleep. What's more concerning is that he does most of his reading in the office.
Love that. Hannah, what did you start? You started something new, right? Or
no, I continued Death Comes to Pemberley, and I managed 47 pages, which is not too bad. They are like fully in the investigative thing, and it's really interesting. So has anyone here read this before?
No, but I saw the show.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It is very, very honest to the TV show. Well, the TV show is very, very honest at this. I mean, it's got the TV adaptation cover on it. So, essentially, this follows on like 6-ish years after Pride and Prejudice. So, essentially, everyone's married off. They're living their lives. And then Denny, who is one of the B-list characters in Pride and Prejudice, is murdered, and Wickham, one of the A-list characters, is essentially arrested because everyone thinks he did it. Now, obviously, it then causes drama for everybody because everyone is tied to Wickham in some way, and it's them trying to solve whether he actually did it or whether the magistrate is just trying to, like, get this moving on quick because who gives a shit? It's Wickham kind of thing. And it's really interesting because it does the thing which I usually find really irritating, where it's trying really hard to emulate the writing of the thing it's retelling. But it's a pretty good estimation. Having just read Pride and Prejudice, it's a really good estimation of the writing style. Like, I feel like it's pretty honest to the writing style. And it does something that Jane Austen does quite a lot, which is makes comparisons for you to understand the comparison easily. But so, like, there's a bit where he talks about Darcy really wanted to work with this particular magistrate because this particular magistrate understands him and is really thorough and will spend a lot of time pondering a scenario, and therefore is seen as being a lot more fair. It doesn't matter that it feels like a complete waste of time sometimes. You know it's going to be fair. that's not the magistrate he's working with. He's working with a guy that hates him, and that's very much how it's set up. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't know if you can tell, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would, because I liked the TV show, but I heard that the actual book was pants. So I guess going in with really low expectations helped, because I'm enjoying it so far.
I wonder if there'll be a turning point where it does go into.
I imagine the thing that annoys people, because at this point they're starting to solve the crime, and it's 130 pages in a 300-page book, is it's like, oh, it took you that long to
that's the most I see in reviews, is that it's so slow, and then they quit rather than the end being rubbish or something.
But I can see why, because they spend so much time trying to bridge that gap between the two. So like the very first chapter is not even chapter 1, it is literally just so after Pride and Prejudice ends, these things happen, and it's like 20 pages of just in case you need to know where the characters are, and it's like you probably could have just started the story and would have learned those things throughout. And there's like the occasional moment where it's almost retconning Pride and Prejudice stuff, but it absolutely could have been true, because that stuff's not actually included in the book, but it's kind of like established. So there's a bit in it where Lydia is really angry at Elizabeth for something she does in Pride and Prejudice. Now in Pride and Prejudice, there's no evidence that Lydia knew that Elizabeth did this. But in this book, not only does she know, she's holding a grudge that's actually going to bite her in the butt later on, because she's now picking on Elizabeth because of that thing. So things like that are already being set up. But it's really trying to establish it so that if you haven't read the book, it doesn't matter. And I think probably because I have just read the book, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. And like my brain's just like washing over it, as opposed to if it was a while ago and I'm being forced to, I don't know.
Yeah, I do think it's a bold move though. I appreciate when retellings try to explain the origin story, and I think there's more stock in it when it's things like Beauty and the Beast and like Pinocchio, and actually people don't always read the stories, they just know the thing more or less. But with Pride and Prejudice, I think it's so rare you're going to be reading a retelling of Pride and Prejudice where you need to know specific details if you haven't read the original story.
Mm-hmm.
That then sometimes that can be a bit grating. But yeah, I think
it's like Pride and Prejudice is so driven by its characters. So for me, like picking up all these different retellings, I'm like, do I think these authors have done an authentic rendition of these characters? And thus far, I would say for the most part, yes. And if in places I'm like, no, I feel like it's for a reason. Like there's one character in particular who's lovely in Pride and Prejudice and is an absolute bellend in this. Like 2 chapters in, I'm like, that guy needs to get in the scene or sort his priorities out. And it's really clear that that is because that is going to become part of the conflict. And he's already starting to do suspicious things. And I'm like, I know why you're doing it, but did you have to pick him? Like he was really nice. So yeah, I think it's...
Whereas I think with retellings, I'm happy when I think Pride by Ibby Zaboy describes as a remix, and I do prefer that. I like the idea of remixing things and bringing in new stuff and not telling me, not the same story, but like just some, I don't mind some differences. I think they can be a good thing, because when things are too close to the original, that's when it bothers me, because then I'm like, well, why? What's the point? Because you're
I could just read the original. New. Yeah, no, for sure. I'll text you my list of all the ones that I'm planning on reading, because I do have like 12, and some of them are like really modern adaptations that they've just taken like a sprinkling of Pride and Prejudice and kind of like you said, like, and then like Pride is one of them. And that was one of the first ones that I bought specifically with this vlog in mind. And then others are like this, where they are more like sequels, because they're set during or after Pride and Prejudice.
Like the other Bennet sister. But the funny thing is, I hate Pride and Prejudice, so that's why I love retellings of it, because then I find better things. Like
that's fair. I don't understand how you can hate it. Like I literally like in my
I can't stand. I don't like Pride.
Right?
I don't like Prejudice. So then there's 2 characters that embody these 2 things being so annoying. I'm just like, well, why did I read it? Like, I was never going to like Mr. Darcy. I never was.
He's just a socially awkward little bean. Like, he's just an idiot.
He's a mean socially awkward. Like, you can be socially awkward and mean.
He insults one person, and she's like really rude to him too.
She is really rude too. They both have issues.
She takes him down every time. Like, he's rude, and she's like, "All right, I'll be rude back then. Like, I'll just give it as good as you give me." Like, that's one of the things I do like about Pride and Prejudice. Is that
they're the same person. This is the thing. I find it really funny because like I studied it as like part of Love Story, and I like rocked up with like my Jane Austen t-shirt on and my Jane Austen bag, and was like, by the way, guys, I'm a bit obsessed. And everyone was like, oh, it's really interesting because it's like opposites attract. And I was like, where? They're the same person. Like they both like value their family above anything else. They both take being insulted very badly. They also like love to hold a grudge because she like gossips about people 24/7, and then she's like, oh yeah, Wickham was nice to me and that's why I thought he was a good person. Turns out he's not a good person, and I'm a terrible judge of character.
Don't spoil too much of Pride and Prejudice for people who haven't read it.
It's like 700 years old.
I know, but I'm me.
I also had the same problem with Wuthering Heights. Because the next person told me that it's a love story, I will punch them in the face. Because sitting through an entire lecture and then seminar where everyone was arguing that it was the best love story they ever read, I was like, did we read the same book? Like, are we sure we read the same book?
But,
like, Wuthering Heights.
I was going to say, like, but kind of like Pride and Prejudice, though.
Wuthering Heights is a fantastic, like, look into these characters. And like it's a good character study of like these ridiculous, awful people. Like, and yes, it is technically a romance. Like there is a romance in it.
Don't make me come to York just to backhand you, because that would be a really awkward first like interview.
That's fine. I want you to.
No, it's fine. You don't need to worry about it because one, Lizzie doesn't like driving that far, and two, she gets lost. Like just trying to work. But you really like that's not a threat. Feel free
also,
to
just would walk up my path, see Chris, and just turn around and walk back.
Also, having been to yours, I know that she could get to you and she'd still get lost.
She'd get lost 100%.
No, Wuthering Heights is objectively bad. No, I'm here for all the Wuthering Heights hate.
I enjoyed how awful they were. Like at first I hated it when I was reading it. I was like, these people are awful, like why do we care? And then as I kind of like loved to hate them as I was reading it, and then I was like enjoying it because I didn't like them, so I was just enjoying not liking them as I was reading it. And when I say it's a romance, I mean because it has a romance in it.
I would argue it's a love story, not a romance.
Like I'm only categorizing it as a romance because it has a love story in it, and I read so few books with that in, Lizzie. You know what I read.
I know. Like Jane Eyre, I really enjoy, but for those reasons, because I love to hate Mr. Rochester, and I did a vlog for that one as well. Again, where I read Jane Eyre and then I read a modern retelling, and I remember there was like a bit where he talks about like putting like a diamond necklace as a chain around her neck, and I was like, is that hot? And then I was like, oh no, he means literally like not letting her leave. Like that's not sexy. For some reason, I mean, for a split second, I was
all
like,
the dark romance readers were just like,
yeah, and I was just like, sorry, what? Like, and it wasn't like it was absolutely like a response to like the internet that I was like, maybe, and I was like, no, that's not what that is. And then in the modern retelling, it's really funny because he's still like just as rude, he's just as obnoxious, but she's like, he does have like 3 houses though, and it's just like, no, that's not a personality.
Sorry, someone needs to write a BDSM retelling of Jane Eyre. Who's not?
I'll do it. I'll take that bullet for us. I'll do it.
One, isn't there? There probably is one.
It's probably there's probably a fan fiction out there.
Yeah.
Don't ruin. I read Jane Eyre as a child. Don't ruin my childhood.
I mean, to be fair, some of the books I read as a kid would not recommend.
Yeah, you read Flowers in the Attic. Don't you judge me. Your mother gave you Flowers in the Attic. A teacher gave me Jane Eyre. English teacher.
Guys, I think I'm going to end it here. It's been great. Love that we've gone from vampires to classics to everything in between.
What did you expect, Olivia, inviting us on? Like, invited
So what
in.
is classy? Us three were not the three people to invite.
Sorry. I love this. This is me as a lecturer. I would assign like I'd be like, let's discuss Priest by Sarah Savone and Jane Eyre. Compare and contrast. Let's go.
I need to read that. I've got the 4 books on my shelf and I do plan on reading them.
I so recommend reading 2, 3, 1. That is the order.
Oh, okay.
That is the order.
I'm going to make a note of that because I'll forget otherwise. 2, 3, 1.
Anyway,
And now
that
you
was,
make
we
me
were
want to
supposed to
do
be
as
ending
much
the live stream. Thank you for joining me. Check out their channels. I talk about them all the time. They are great people. And yeah, I'm hoping to do more random reading sprints that will just be sporadic and just chill reading sessions for no reason whatsoever.
We love to see it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.